Here we are with Chloe Valdary. Did I pronounce it correct, Chloe?
Oh, it's Valdary.
Valdary. All right, here we are with Chloe Valdary. I'm here in Jerusalem. Chloe is in New Orleans, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
And I want to let you tell everyone about who you are, but if I could just put in one word from the little I know from following you on the internet and Facebook, you are a powerhouse for, and I use that word not lightly, I really mean it, in terms on college campuses and a pro-Israel force and a very young and dynamic and unique voice, which is very much needed, especially on college campuses today. So with that, Chloe, can you tell us what makes you tick? Why are you so active for Israel today?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for that wonderful introduction. That was very sweet. It's Zionism, as I like to tell people, is sort of the metahistorical imperative of my existence, in the sense that I feel that it was almost inevitable that I would come to Zionism given my upbringing. And that's because I grew up in an atypical Christian home, grew up observing Shabbat, keeping kosher, keeping the holy days. And what I didn't realize is that process was actually creating for me a connection to the Jewish people. And it's a connection that's yes, it's rooted in love, and yes, it's rooted in, sort of concern, but it's also rooted in identity, which I think is almost much stronger than love. Meaning that the fact that I identify with the Jewish people and the fact that my identity is inextricably linked to that of the Jewish people, whenever they are threatened or whenever they are defamed or maligned, I feel personally threatened. So that personal connection is what propels me forward. And I think that upbringing was the first, sort of foundation that led me to where I am today. And of course, some other things happened along the way. I studied, or not studied, but I read a lot of Jewish literature in high school. I fell in love with the works of Leon Uris in high school. I read Exodus after I graduated from high school. And I also read a very important book called The Town Beyond the Wall by Elie Wiesel. And I think it's a series of Night and Dawn. And one of the main themes of that series, or that book rather, was that while it is fundamentally human to be evil or fundamentally human to be good, it is fundamentally inhumane to be apathetic. Right. And that really resonated with me. And when I read that book, a lot was going on in the news. There was a lot of talk about Iran. There was a lot of talk about the Fogel family massacre had just happened, and I think the shooting in Toulouse, France had just happened. So all of these different factors were going on around me while I was reading, it is fundamentally inhumane to be apathetic. And so as a result, I felt compelled to start a pro-Israel organization on my campus at the University of New Orleans called Allies of Israel, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Unbelievable. Now, do you have any siblings?
I do. I have 4 sisters.
And what are your parents, siblings, relatives who come from the same background as you? What are they? Are they supportive? What do they say to you about all your activity?
It's interesting. They're very supportive. My family is very supportive. They're not as passionate as I am about it. My parents, I think, are sort of, to be pro-Israel is the understood thing to be. It's well, of course we're pro-Israel. It's one of those things. Whereas my pro-Israel sentiment is much more, I think, propelled by a constant search for new information and a constant search for researching the old Zionist, political leaders of the 1800s, for example. I'm really moved by that, and I'm really interested in that story and retelling that story to my generation today who may have not heard about it or may have forgotten about it. So I think that's the key difference between my parents and myself. But yes, my family is very supportive of my endeavors.
That's unbelievable. Wait, so now, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask a different question.
Okay.
I'm not that up on the history of the civil rights movement in America, but I do have enough knowledge to know that there were many Jews very much involved in that movement. Yet today, and I hope it's okay, I'm going in this direction with you asking you this question, yet today there are unfortunately a lot of anti-Semitism even within the black community in America. Mm-hmm. So I'm asking you, Chloe, what type of reactions do you get from peers from African American community in America for all your activities for Israel?
It's interesting because for the most part I haven't received a negative response from the African American community. And I think that it's a bit of an oversimplification to say, I mean, yes, there is some anti-Semitism in the African American community, but I think that's sort of propelled more by radical voices, specifically those voices that belong to such groups as the Nation of Islam, with Farrakhan and his sort of group. But I don't think, I mean, I haven't seen polls, but I wouldn't say that um, the mainstream African American community is even involved in organizations like those. At the same time, it's less of a, I think the main issue with the African American community is actually apathy or disinterestedness, not anti-Semitism. You do have to deal with anti-Semitism in some respects, but I think more you have to deal with the apathy aspect. And the problem with the apathy aspect is oftentimes when African Americans may get on college campuses and they haven't heard about this issue, they haven't heard about Zionism, they haven't heard about the Israeli conflict, oftentimes anti-Israel groups take advantage of that and they tell their story, and their story is very compelling, and that's how they get, African Americans to sort of side with them. And that's the issue I think we have to tackle.
First of all, I'm glad to hear that. I think I agree with you, but it's good hearing it. It's good hearing it from you. And you actually started to touch upon the next question that I wanted to ask you, which is, what do you do to get people off of being apathetic to what's going on with Israel? I mean, if you ask me, standing for Israel is standing for humanity. It's standing for the liberal values, for human rights, and everything that all of us that are taught on college campuses today. Yet it's been steered in the wrong direction and misused and abused to make Israel look like the bad guy. How do you get
Right.
people to the apathy and focused on the truth and the true narrative and getting rid of what they're being fed, which is really a lot of lies, unfortunately?
So that's a great question, and I grapple with this question almost daily. I think I have a very unconventional approach to this question. Unconventional in the sense that it sort of steers away from what I think mainstream pro-Israel advocacy has come to look like, at least up until this point in 2014. I'm very much a Zionism first kind of gal, in the sense that I think that you can't avoid the question of Zionism on college campuses. I think that especially as a I think that especially Jewish kids on college campuses must tell their story, and they must begin with that. Meaning they can't begin their conversation with the Israeli conflict. They can't begin the conversation with a conversation about land swaps or with a conversation about water rights or anything like that. And I actually came to this conclusion by studying what anti-Israel groups do and why what they do is so compelling. It's because they're telling their story and they're actually invoking morality when they tell their story. And just to give you an example, Students for Justice in Palestine, very famous anti-Israel group, has a famous chant that goes, "Resistance is justified when people are occupied." That's a fundamentally moral argument. And we miss that point because we, rightfully so, consider SJP immoral. But what we miss is that they're cloaking their immorality in the veneer of morality, and that works. And that's very compelling. And we know it works because, there are a couple of Pew polls that came out this summer, which show that while the majority of the country is pro-Israel, unfortunately, millennials, people my age, tend to not be. So the question is, why is that? And the determining factor for me is the compelling story. People don't remember what you told them; they remember how you made them feel. And the fact of the matter is, telling someone that your house was stolen makes them feel much more emotionally compelled than telling someone that San Remo gave you your land. And I think that we have to get back to that fundamental, basic act of storytelling and fundamentally basic act of telling of our own history and of our own narrative. And once we do that, I think we'll see a shift.
So first of all, I think it's fabulous that you're talk about our own history, our own narrative. Like, you are one with us, which again, it's so heartwarming to hear. And I'm thankful to you, because it's not often we hear that, even from many of our fellow Jews, unfortunately, don't have as much understanding of these issues as you do. And it's interesting that you talk in terms of in terms of the cloaking of the immorality and morality. And I'm going to touch upon a different point of that. Last week I was at an event, and someone got up and said, Israel is doing a bad job in getting across its narrative because we are just focused on the facts. We are just focused on the intellectual, on the philosophical, while unfortunately the anti-Israel activists, they're using their passion and passion with stories, what catches people. It doesn't make a difference if it's true or not. People just hook on. But yet we're always focused on the facts, and you add this whole new different dimension that many of us don't bring to the table. So I'm looking forward to seeing more and more campus activists and Israel activists learning from you how to bring in this story and how to bring in that passion to inspire other collegiates or other people as well. So kudos to you for bringing that out.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So I'll end this list because I want people to actually watch this video from beginning to the end, so I don't want to make it too long. But what's the state of college campuses today with censored?
It's interesting. So my colleague and friend Daniel Mel just had an article come out in the Jerusalem Post about the rise of anti-Semitism on college campuses, and I think the statistic was it is up some 114%, which is alarming. But you know, it gives us a challenge, and like I always say, every obstacle is an opportunity. So that's the challenge that we have to grapple with. And I think, you know, this was certainly true with the civil rights movement, and this is an interesting point. I think when you have an increase anytime of discrimination against the people or prejudice against the people, you will simultaneously have also a sort of backlash against that in the form of this idea of pride. And I think that because the anti-Semitism is rising, you will see more conversations being had about this discourse of telling your story on college campuses, of telling the whole Jewish story on college campuses, and really invoking pride and strength through the telling of that story. So that's unfortunately what it looks like today. It's especially more concentrated in areas in the Northeast and on the West Coast. Specifically in the South is not too bad, at least insofar as I can tell. But that's really the picture that I can see at the moment.
Well, all I could say is I think humanity and anyone who's pro-Israel has to owe you a thank you for what you are adding to everything on the campus level. So thank you very much. And on that note, we just promoted a video on our website, Israel Video Network, yesterday of an event you're coming. Can you give us a plug for any collegiates to know about this upcoming event?
Sure, absolutely. So Declare Your Freedom 3.0 is the largest Zionist music festival in America. It is going to be on Tulane's campus, University of Central Florida, Penn State, and American University this year. We're really excited. It's going to be huge. We're fundraising for it now. So if you're interested in donating, go to tilt.com, search in the little engine Declare Your Freedom 3.0, and there you go. You can donate to the cause right there.
Awesome. Everyone, you have an action item to do. Chloe, you send me the direct link, so I'll put it with the video. People who are listening will have it right there below them. And one final question. Give me 3 names of people who you would suggest that I should continue an interview, or who you'd love to talk to.
I would say Dumasani Washington, because he's epic. And Brooke Goldstein as well, because she's epic. I'm really naming my mentors, honestly. And one more person. I'd say Daniel Mill. Daniel Mill.
All right. They're all written down. I'll be reaching out to them. And Chloe, a pleasure meeting you, a pleasure speaking to you. Keep on doing all you're doing. Keep on giving us videos so we can help get out there for more and more people to see. And hopefully with all your activity, you're making a difference, and it'll make a difference for America, for the Western world, and obviously for Israel as well. Thanks so much, Chloe.
Thank you so much for having me.